Congressman King, what would the Republicans have the White House do any differently?
Well, I would hope so. And if I were calling the shots, the first thing I would do is suspend capital gains taxes for at least 2 years to free up the capital that's out there that's sitting on the sidelines that just doesn't have confidence that raising taxes and growing government is going to do anything except delay the recovery in this recession that we're in.
Congressman Maloney, a lot of people would seem to argue that cutting taxes for a business that's already losing a lot of money won't do anything, and there's no guarantee that if you give people tax money, they will actually spend it to stimulate the economy. But I mean, tell us your view. I mean, wouldn't more taxes help to a certain extent?
Well, let me tell you, in the stimulus package, the economic recovery package that we just passed, $787 billion, we haven't had a chance for that money to kick in, but included in it was a tax break for 95% of working Americans. They are getting a break in their paychecks this week. So there is relief in taxes and fair taxes to the working men and women of this country. But these are grim, gut-wrenching numbers. It's the fourth consecutive month that we have lost over 600,000 jobs. With the Barack Obama's administration has said when you're driving toward a cliff, you have to change course, and we have changed course. He had called for a stimulus package before he even was sworn in. And yet it was not accepted by the president, the then sitting president, or the Republicans in Congress. It was one of the first things he enacted into law. We passed in the House a housing stabilization bill to stabilize housing. Economists have said we will not get a hold of this economic recession until we stabilize, put a floor on housing, and then the third stool is...
Congresswoman Maloney, how do you explain to your constituents why the situation continues to get worse?
Well, I would say that we inherited 8 years of failed economic policies. He has been in office, as you said, 47 days. He has acted to pass the economic recovery plan that invested in saving or creating 3.5 million jobs and giving a tax break. And it's also, we have passed the housing stabilization plan, and they are coming out with other efforts to stabilize our financial system so that we can start generating jobs and going forward in a positive way. These are major pieces of...
Congressman King, you don't blame President Obama for these job losses, do you?
Some of it is and some of it isn't. I think we're both sad to see these kind of numbers come out.
Okay, what of it is specifically? Wait a second. Explain specifically what of the job losses are attributable to President Obama and why.
Okay. These job losses come from the second half of the TARP fund. The previous half was is part of President Bush's economy. But what's happened is that President Obama has been one who has contributed to the lack of confidence in the future of this economy. And then this massive spending, this $1.4 trillion tax increase, the $650 or so billion cap in trade that is a tax on everybody, whether they're the lower 95% or the top 5%, scares capital to the sidelines.
That hasn't started yet. So again, to your point, that hasn't started yet, though, Congressman. I mean, the issue is you said that this is somehow related to the TARP. Let's go back over that. What about the TARP is costing Americans their jobs right now? The TARP, as far as I understand, was money to get credit flowing, to help the banks so the banks would not go insolvent. If a bank goes out of business, all those employees of the bank lose their jobs. If you give a bank money to stay in business, the employees still have their jobs. So again, what is it about the TARP that's costing jobs?
And I hope you hear my point, and that is that this has transitioned into President Obama's economy. He's supported all of the TARP, and only the first half can be charged against President Bush. The balance of that was requested by the Obama administration. But when there's a crisis in confidence in credit, which the TARP didn't fix, and we still don't know where that money all went, and when there's a crisis in confidence in capital investment, it costs jobs. Those are the jobs that are now showing up in our records today as the capital that's sitting on the sidelines. We need confidence that capital is not going to cost more. I mean, it was Adam Smith that said that the cost of anything is the sum total of the cost of the capital and the labor that goes together to make it work. Capital is more expensive.
Well, let me take your argument. I think I get your argument. Let me try to simplify and try for Congressman Maloney. The idea is that, yes, the credit industry, the financial markets are worried because they don't see a lot of clarity in terms of how the Obama administration is going to solve the credit crisis and get the finances moving again. And that lack of clarity, the lack of confidence is what is causing the Dow to drop. Congressman Maloney, what's wrong with that argument?
Well, I would say that the alternative to the TARP would be that our financial systems went right up to the brink of failing, of a 1929 financial breakdown. So the effort of keeping our financial system moving and going forward was important. Now, there is an effort to bring clarity to exactly where these dollars are going. I even have a bill in that would track all the TARP money in a centralized database in government. I hope you'll join me on this bill, so that we can study the trends and whether or not it's really being used to halt systemic risk in our government. I think that President Obama has done a superb job. He has restored confidence. He has come into a mess. George Bush created fewer jobs than any president in history, and he tripled our debt, our deficit, and President Obama has come out with a plan to cut our deficit in half and to move forward to protect and create new American jobs. And we do have the third I would say the third stool, or the third area that we need to work on.
Well, that's
and that's
true. No, I mean, there's still a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do.
Congresswoman,
but he's got a good
I agree.
economic
Now, there is
team
a lot of
around
work
him.
to do, and it's a good sign that the two of you can agree to try to bring some more transparency to how the banks are using the money that we give them. So that's at least an important start. In any case, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney from New York and Congressman Steve King, Republican from Iowa, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you
We
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. You're welcome. And coming up on Monday on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we'll speak with Nobel Prize winning